Nothing is worse than that embarrassment of your guests trying to be polite when you can audibly hear their stomach rumbling across the room. Inevitably, the missus ends up giving you the side eye, and you have to essentially put your tail between your legs and incessantly apologize because you couldn't predict when it would be done. Nobody likes that situation, but I bet it has happened to most of you. Different kind of video coming at you today. I've had some of you guys ask me about my warmer. I'm gonna be completely honest and tell you guys that this is probably the best barbecue investment I've made aside from my actual smoker. This thing levels the playing field and allows for a lot of convenience in barbecuing. Before I get into the review, I wanna share my story on how I ended up with this warmer. I've been barbecuing for most of my adult life, and I started with a charcoal grill and a hand-me-down electric smoker from my dad. I think the brand was Brinkman, probably a gourmet smoker or something like that. This thing was awesome. It had a heating element at the bottom, and all you needed to do was add wood chunks. I did a ton of pork butts on there and just practiced pork butt after pork butt after pork butt. The temps were kind of hard to control on this, so I never did venture out to try a brisket or anything like that. It required perfect dialing in of temperatures. I used that for probably 4 or 5 years until it crapped out on me one weekend in the middle of a pork butt cook. For the first time in my adult life, I was without a smoker and I had no idea what to do with myself. It was like my best friend had just moved to a new school or something. I was pretty sad. So I did what most folks do. I went out and I bought a pellet smoker. I got one of those smaller Traeger units. Once I picked that up, I learned that I could control the temps pretty precisely, and it was simple. All I needed to do was turn a dial, set it, and forget it was the name of the game. Since I could control the temps, I ventured out into brisket. I made it my goal to produce the best brisket on the planet with that thing. So I did a ton of research, created a brisket game plan, kept a logbook, and made adjustments with each cook until I made the perfect brisket. Only one problem though, I couldn't make the perfect brisket. I was just not getting that smoke flavor that I really wanted. I tried multiple brands of pellets with varying degrees of quality, and unfortunately, nothing satisfied that desire for perfect smoke flavor. All of the videos I was watching on YouTube were from guys using offset smokers, so I then made that my ultimate plan. I started doing research and saving up. I found Bell Fabrications. I'll do a review at some point specifically on my smoker, but it ended up being a great choice. Perfect backyard smoker with thick walls, the ability to customize it how I wanted at a great price. I ordered that thing, and man, I could not wait for it to show up. Once it showed up, I started working hard on that thing, rolling smoke, cranking out as much meat as I could, including brisket. A lot of it is trial and error, but there's so much good information out there about running an offset, and I became a believer once I tried a properly smoked brisket off of that thing. Plus, I learned to love the agency an offset smoker would give me. It actually requires skill, and I found managing the fire to be incredibly relaxing and fun. It was also so refreshing and restful to me. So then I continued on my quest to master the perfect brisket, and I had a lot of fun along the way. I visited some places down in Fort Worth area such as Goldie's, ranked as the #1 barbecue joint in Texas by Texas Monthly, Panther City, Heim Barbecue, places like that. Places like this were absolutely nailing it, and I set out on my quest to replicate what they were doing. I did a bunch more research and crafted what I believe to be the master plan at creating the best brisket possible. I pulled out all the stops and implemented all the tricks, but one thing was still lacking. Visiting these places and watching videos about these places on YouTube, I realized what I was lacking was a warming oven. You see, when you do a brisket, it's not advisable to just take it off the smoker and slice into it. You gotta give it time for the fibers to relax a bit and for the juices to redistribute. If you slice into it right away, it'll end up dry. In my research, I found that the longer the hold, the better the final product. Ideally, you wanna hold your briskets for 13 to 17 hours. I did some digging and found that these warming ovens come with a pretty hefty price tag, one that I was not willing to spend. So I kept doing briskets, but trying different methods to hold them. I did oven holding, but my oven only goes down to 170. And I temped my oven and found there were massive temp fluctuations. So my briskets were all overcooking when I tried the oven hold. I also tried the faux Cambro. If you're not familiar with this, it's a method where you fill a cooler with hot water, let it preheat, surround your wrapped brisket with towels, and put it in the cooler to hold. This works well for about 4 to 6 hours until the brisket started cooling so much that it was under 140, therefore in the danger zone, in which case I would then need to reheat it above 140 and continue the hold process. It was inconvenient to say the least, and I think those temp fluctuations damage the final product as well. I saw a video where a guy did a hold in a toaster oven, which seemed okay, but toaster ovens for the average kitchen probably won't hold 3 or 4 briskets like I wanted it to. My parents had an upcoming 4th of July party, and they were going to be hosting about 70 people. They tasked me with doing the meat for this, and so I wanted to do 3 briskets and 2 pork butts. I absolutely loaded up my backyard pit with these cuts, so I needed something that would handle that type of volume to hold as well. I didn't think a toaster oven was going to be the trick for me, so then I started seriously reviewing warming ovens on Amazon, and I searched a bunch of product reviews and landed on the one that I've got here. You could say I bit the bullet, bought it without asking my wife, asked for forgiveness instead of for permission, and pulled out my wallet. The cost hurt a little bit, but I haven't missed that money at all. This is a HeatMax food warmer for people on the go, and it's been great. I typically hold my meat about 150-ish. My method is to take my meat off the smoker and let it rest on the counter down to about 160 internal temp. This takes a couple of hours. The purpose of doing this is so I don't overcook the meat. If I put the briskets directly into the warming oven at 150 right after taking them off the pit, they would overcook through carryover cooking. This is where the outside of the meat continues to cook the inside of the meat, even after taking it off of the heat source. To limit that, you have to rest it down to about 160 before holding it in whichever way you want to. So then I put it in the warming oven with a water pan and close the door and forget about it till it's time to serve. The water pan is important as I think it provides that moist, humid heat and also regulates the temp in the warmer a little bit more. This warmer will hold the meat about 10 to 15 degrees fluctuation, which is perfect. There are several huge benefits with using this warmer. One, first and foremost, is quality of the finished product. For the reasons I've already stated, this really maximizes overall quality of the finished product. It allows the muscle fibers to relax, which helps the juices redistribute, and you end up with a more tender, juicier product than if you hold it for a shorter duration or don't hold it at all. Second reason is flexibility. If you've been barbecuing for very long, you know that dreadful feeling of trying to predict when the food is going to be done in time for dinner. If you are hosting, nothing is worse than that embarrassment of your guests trying to be polite when you can audibly hear their stomach rumbling across the room. Inevitably, the missus ends up giving you the side eye, and you have to essentially put your tail between your legs and incessantly apologize because you couldn't predict when it would be done. Nobody likes that situation, but I bet it has happened to most of you. Especially with an offset, you've been busting your butt all day long, managing a fire, and at the end of the day, you're tired. The last thing you want to do is try to predict when the food is going to be done cooking and host a dinner guest. This warmer allows you to cook the meat the day before, take it off the smoker whenever it's truly done without the pressure of a deadline, and hold it until dinner the next day. Third reason is more sleep. One way that I used to get around having a warmer is I would start a brisket cook at like 9 p.m. the night before, cook it all night long, then take it off early the next morning. Try to keep it warm for a hold until dinner that evening. Convince myself that a 6 or 7 hour hold is just as good as a 13 to 17 hour hold, and then embarrassingly take bites of subpar barbecue while internally wondering if the dinner guests realize it could be better, all while delirious on no sleep because I was running an offset all night. I've got a wife and a kid, and they don't need a husband and daddy who is hallucinating because he's running on no sleep. With a warmer, again, I cook my big cuts during the day before, go to sleep while the warmer keeps them perfectly safe, all the while improving the quality of the meat while I sleep. Number 4, another big reason is in the same vein. I get my day back. If I cook the meat all day on a Saturday, the warmer is handling everything for me. So the next day I can go to church, I can leave the house for family activities, I can mow the lawn, I can help my wife clean the house for the dinner guests, and I can play with my kid. Number 5, the fifth and final reason became obvious to me only after I got the warmer. Not only do I use this thing for holding large cuts of meat with barbecue, but let's envision we're having folks over for other reasons that aren't barbecue. There's usually food involved regardless, as I feel like one of the best ways to connect with people is to break bread with them. Let's say I'm grilling burgers. I don't have to stand around a hot grill trying to get the perfect burgers while hosting people and holding a conversation and helping my wife out with other tasks all at the same time. I can grill the burgers an hour or two ahead of time before the guests arrive and put them in the warmer for when people show up. And they'll be perfect and ready to go, all at a perfect serving temp. All I have to do is pull them out and serve. The same can be said with pizza, casseroles, side dishes, pretty much every single dish except for ice cream. And we have a freezer for that. Number 6, one bonus point as well. I keep this thing in the garage, and all the food when it's done goes out into the garage, which frees up valuable kitchen space. It looks less cluttered in there, and it's just more comfortable for everybody in a space that's less cluttered. With that being said, guys, that's a little bit of my barbecue journey, and I promise you, if you go far enough down this barbecue rabbit hole, you will eventually find yourself buying a warming oven. I give my full endorsement of this brand. Click on the Amazon link below. I guarantee you won't regret it, and neither will your dinner guests. I love you guys, and stick around.